Despite inclement weather conditions, hundreds of protesters gathered outside Belfast City Hall to highlight their concerns regarding media bias in favour of the Israeli regime. They marched through the city centre to BBC Northern Ireland headquarters, claiming news reports frequently focus on Israel's right to self-defence, while omitting the devastating impact of the regime's genocide in Gaza.
These children are being brutally murdered as they're sitting in their homes, as they're sheltering in schools, as they are standing waiting in lines for bread, as they're calling for ambulances. Young Hind Rajab had 355 bullets put in her, a young child who was 5 years old, and there was none of that reported on the BBC.
BBC, you can't hide!
It is suggested that in so-called mainstream media outlets there is a lack of critical examination of the humanitarian consequences of Israeli blockades, bombings and the destruction of infrastructure. It is the responsibility of the Western media to inform the public, but critics say this is being overshadowed by political and corporate interests. Campaigners say it is not just about what is reported, but what is left unsaid. This, as the most powerful figure in the EU institutions, Ursula von der Leyen, has been heavily criticised by lawmakers for seemingly ignoring the International Criminal Court arrest warrant issued against Benjamin Netanyahu.
Despite the overwhelming support of EU member states, we have had no statement from the President of the Commission, and I think it's reasonable to conclude that that silence undermines the legitimacy of the court and of international law.
Several hard-right legislators have been speaking out in support of Netanyahu. For that, they have been castigated.
We portray ourselves as defenders of the rule of law. Yet, once again, the deeply rooted double standards have prevailed. You should be ashamed.
Campaigners insist that the West's media outlets should also be ashamed of themselves for deliberately obscuring the broader context of Israel's illegal occupation and now genocide. Jerome Hughes